Hello, I'm Simon.
And I'm Dan.
And this is the Wikicast, a podcast where Wikipedia takes us to a random article each week and we talk about what we find. Dan, what are we talking about this week?
This week, Simon, we're talking about chair. Brackets, sculpture.
The lesser-known singer from the 80s. Okay. Yeah. I genuinely thought that we were going to be talking about Cher for a second.
Right, yeah. So we're talking about chair, C-H-A-I-R, also known as the big chair.
Oh, so I assumed that this was going to be a category of sculpture, but this is a specific sculpture.
This is a specific sculpture.
Right, so tell me about this sculpture.
Well,
is it actually a chair?
It is actually a chair. Chair is a public artwork designed as an advertisement by Bassett Furniture, located at the intersection of Martin Luther King Avenue and V Street in the Anacostia neighborhood of Washington, D.C., United States of America. Chair was originally surveyed as part of the Smithsonian's Save Outdoor Sculpture Survey in 1994. It was once considered the world's largest chair, but has since been overtaken by works like Broken Chair in Geneva and the temporary The Writer on Hampstead Heath in London. It's basically a massive fucking chair sitting on the corner of this street.
Art.
Yes, yeah. It's the dimensions are it's nearly 600 centimeters by 400 centimeters.
So 6 meters by 4 meters.
Yeah, for some reason they've given it in centimeters and inches. The chair, which stands at 19.5 feet high, is a detail-to-detail replica of Duncan Fife, of a Duncan Fife-style chair, painted brown with a white and brown stripped cushion. The chair is entirely made of aluminium, weighing between 4,000 and 4,600 pounds. The chair sits on a concrete base.
So is the cushion metal or is the cushion a real cushion?
The cushion is painted to look like a cushion, but
it's
made of aluminium.
So it's not a practical type throne for a giant creature. It's actually
sadly not.
It would be very uncomfortable.
What also makes it even sadder is they've spelled aluminium wrong.
Aluminum.
Aluminum.
There is the story behind that, isn't there? That when they convened, it's like a Brady Haran story. That when they convened to name the new elements, there was like a trade-off. America agreed to call aluminium, but we in return would have to call sulfur with an F in the internationally agreed. And then they went back and they still kept calling it aluminum rather than aluminium because that's how deals work, apparently. According to Trump, anyway. So, okay. Is there anything else? Presumably, if it's got its own Wikipedia article, it's like quite a significant chair? Quite a significant sculpture?
It's got I would say it's got a small Wikipedia page. It's not one of those pages that you literally, you look up, the yellow flower, and then you read the information, and above the contents, it's like, this is a yellow flower, and in the contents, the first subject heading is yellow flower, and in that is yellow flower, and that's the end of the Wikipedia article. This one's got quite a few. We've got description, acquisition, rededication, community reception, references. So it's fairly, I think it's fairly well known. Apparently it was rededicated to John Kidwell. Well, no, hang on. John Kidwell, the caretaker of the chair, which might be the most underwhelming title ever, frequently patched holes that would form after heavy rains with cement. During the days of August 23rd to 24th, 2005, the original chair was disassembled by a backhoe and taken away for rest.
Sorry?
A backhoe.
A backhoe?
A mechanical excavator which draws towards itself a bucket attached to a hinged broom. So a digger, as we would say. It's a digger?
I'm sorry, who has ever called a digger a backhoe?
I don't know.
That sounds like a side chick.
That's weird. Made entirely of Honduras mahogany, the legs had begun to rot. On April 25th, 2006, the chair was returned, and this one was now made of aluminium. So previously, the other one was actually made of kind of perishable materials, I suppose.
Right.
So wood and leather and things.
To quote our great friend Lily, what's the fucking point?
I have no idea. What is the fucking point? The new chair cost over $40,000 to build.
What?
Upon its delivery by flatbed truck, overpasses had to be avoided due to the size of the chair.
So you're driving along the freeway or something, you look over and there's a fuck-off giant throne just being transported next to you on a flatbed truck. Wow, okay. That sounds like I'll be honest, I get the point of sculpture.
Hang on.
Oh,
it gets weirder. It gets so much weirder. So there's another subheading here titled Looking Glass House. It goes on to say, on August 13th, 1960, Rebecca Kirby, also known as Lynn Arnold, moved onto the chair. A 10 by 10 foot cubicle was built and placed on the seat, furnished with a shower, bed, toilet, heater, air conditioner and balcony, placed upon the chair by the way of a forklift. Kirby lived in the chair for 42 days. In the cubicle, she'd watch TV, read books and talk on the telephone, as well as dine, as her meals were delivered every day. Kirby would step outside the balcony every few hours to greet visitors who learned about her living situation due to newspapers advertising her as Alice in the Looking-Glass House. Visitors would be encouraged to guess how long she'd maintain her residency. Then her 14-month-old son, Richard, visited often, being placed in a dumbwaiter and being sent up to see her. What the
actual is happening?
Her then 14-month-old son, Richard, visited often, being placed in a dumbwaiter and being sent up to see her. After 42 days, Kirby decided to return to Earth. That's a direct quote. Earning $1,500 for her stay.
What? From who?
I have no idea.
What?
That is so... I have so many questions.
So she had a baby son, and she was this postnatal depression? She was just like, F it, I'm off. I'm going to go live in a giant chair.
I have no idea.
Wow, it was like the lighthouse keeper's wife, ferrying the sandwiches up in a basket, except it's a baby.
I just wonder whether it was... And this was in 1960. That's just bizarre.
I mean, I don't get sculpture at the best of time, right? I can understand... classical sculpture looks great. A lot of sculpture looks fantastic, but stuff like this on its own, just a giant abstract chair, I'm like, all right, yeah, I guess, but I don't really see the point. Equally, choosing to live on the f***ing chair.
That's bizarre.
Have you ever lived in a giant item of furniture, like an old woman in a shoe?
No, sadly not. I wish I had. Otherwise, I could sympathise with Rebecca Kirby, but. Wow, what a weird... When you didn't think it could get any weirder.
What a story, Mark. I didn't really have high hopes from this article from the sounds of things.
Oh, hang on. The chair is often used as a geographic marker for direction giving and holiday celebration. Santa Claus sits upon the chair during Christmas.
Of course. Is it a giant Santa Claus? Or is it a regular-sized person?
I've no idea. When the chair was reinstalled in 2006, community members surrounded the giant clapping, yelling, and photographing the new chair. Oh, so I think it is a giant Santa.
Oh my god. Otherwise it's like a little Stuart Little Santa perched
the best part of this thoroughly fucking fever-dreamy Wikipedia article is it tries to end on a poignant note and goes on to say, during the 1968 Washington, D.C. riots, the chair was one of the few landmarks to go unscathed in a neighbourhood heavily affected by Martin Luther King Jr.'s death.
Well, that's because nobody could reach the top of the chair, probably.
Yeah, that's because nobody gave a shit, probably.
They're like, it's a giant chair, just leave it be.
Just leave it. It's not worth it.
It's not worth it, mate.
It's just so strange. So we also had mention of the broken chair in Geneva.
Right.
Which basically looks exactly the same except one of the legs is broken.
Ooh, edgy.
It's way bigger though. It's 39 feet high.
So that's
12 meters.
12 meters. That's like, so the width of a swimming pool. Tall.
And it's made of wood.
Oh, so
5.5 tons of wood.
Bloody hell. Why? What's the point? I know I sound like a Luddite, but what's the point?
Apparently, it stands across the street from the Palace of Nations in Geneva. It symbolises opposition to landmines and cluster bombs and acts as a reminder to politicians and others visiting Geneva.
What, to not take this stuff sitting down?
Well, yeah,
what's the symbolism?
Well, one of the legs of the chair's blown off. And so, a chair, I guess, as a symbol of stability. But then, much like with the United Nations, if they don't think things through and they make rash decisions and they do stuff that involves landmines and cluster bombs, you might blow your leg off a chair or the leg off a small child.
Well, why would you not make a statue of a giant person missing a leg? Or is that just too technically difficult?
I don't know. It might be too obvious.
Oh yeah, because what is it with people? I don't know. Possibly I've just had a spate of idiotic comments on my chat. People, man. What is it with people?
No idea.
They're idiots. I mean, so for context, I just released a video about how to suck at maths, which is very clearly a reverse psychology. Nobody... I made that thinking nobody could ever possibly mistake this as a legit video. Boy, was I wrong. I've had so many comments of people being like, "This seems pointless. Why would anyone want to suck at maths?" Or like, "I'm not sure if this is satire or not." And it's like, how stupid do you have to be? Like, how do you function in the world?
YouTube's stupid.
People are stupid. Like, oh my god. Well, actually, no. It's the quote from Men in Black, right? People are stupid. An individual person, in theory, is very clever. Except, YouTube comments are written by individual people, and they're stupid. Not everyone, of course, but like, there's just been several recently. Like, also this guy who commented today saying, first of all, you only go to university if you're too stupid to come up with something marketable on your own. Education is for idiots. God, I'd never thought of it that way before. Possibly because I'm not a fucking brain donor.
This is just insane. Well, here we go. Big chairs. We can all agree.
Chairs, everyone.
Massive, colossal waste of time.
We're not going to take this one lying down because we can sit in the chair.
Because we can sit in the chair.
Sit in the chair.
I just want to see if there's anything interesting about Bassett Furniture, which is why the chair's there in the first place. And I can confirm exclusively it's Dollar's Sin. It's got a paragraph. The Wikipedia page doesn't even have a contents.
It was just a furniture store.
It's a very, very big furniture store. They employ 2,618 people.
It's quite big, yeah.
Yeah, their revenue last year was $452.5 million US.
I'll be honest, I wasn't listening because I just didn't care.
Yeah, it was founded in 1902, so it's not even like a massively old one. It's just a bit
because I did listen to a really interesting podcast, the 99% Invisible podcast, about architecture and talking about there are two types of buildings, basically. You get like sheds with signs, and you get big ducks. And like the shed with a sign is just the building that could hold anything. It just has a sign that indicates what is inside, like every PC World or something like that. Whereas like I don't know, most McDonald's. Whereas a rubber duck, a giant duck, is the building looks like what the service provided inside, or the purpose of the building inside is. So for the example is there was like a rubber duck company, I think it was, and they had this giant building in the shape of a duck. Whereas like this is like, oh, we're a furniture company, so let's not make the building that furniture is going to be made in like a chair, because that'd be ridiculous. Where would we put everything? But making a giant chair, well, that's just perfect sense.
See, if you want to kind of take a topic that might not be immediately interesting and turn it into something inherently interesting, there's a really excellent documentary series on Netflix called Abstract: The Art of Design.
Yeah, you've told me about this before, actually.
It's really good. It's really, really good. Hang on, let me see if I can Abstract: The Art of Design. Here we go. So they feature episodes. We have an episode on Christoph Neilman, who's an illustrator.
Right.
Tinker Hatfield, who's the famous shoe designer and kind of came up with, helped develop Nike. Ez Devlin, stage design, that was super interesting. Bjarke Engels, architecture. Ralph Giles, automotive design. Paula Scher, graphic design. Platon, photography. And Al Crawford, interior design. I have watched all of them, and it's really, really worth it. Because it's very, very well shot too.
In my head, it's in the same part of Netflix as the Chef's Table.
Yes, I've also watched all of those. They're really good.
Yeah, like I need to up my Netflix game. Actually, I just found a series the other day which was about toys and about the stories behind toy empires. Because I just finished Wild Wild Country.
The Toys That Made Us.
Yeah, that's the one. The Toys That Made Us. But yeah, I just finished Wild Wild Country, and I was like, I really need to make more of this Netflix subscription, because I'm paying for myself, Pixel Girl, and my mum. And mum doesn't know how to use Netflix, but she's getting a tablet, so she will actually soon be able to use the Chromecast that we have.
Very exciting.
And, Pixel Girl uses it a lot, I think, whereas I barely use it because I barely take any time off. But I feel like I should dedicate myself to a couple of series, because I enjoyed Wild Wild Country. I did think it was good. I did feel like it was a little bit underwhelming. Like, maybe I just went in with too high expectations.
Did you watch the entirety of it?
Yeah. It's a crazy story. It really
is.
is.
Exactly. That's the best part about it. You'll listen to this and you're like, how have I never heard of this before? Because it was just insane.
Yeah, they nearly took over an entire state.
Yeah, and the poisoning.
Yeah, they poisoned like an entire town
by blending beavers.
Yeah, allegedly that one.
Allegedly, yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, well, we talked about this before, but this is this cult that established in America, right? It was a quote unquote sex cult.
Yeah, it started off in India, and then they fled India in fear of kind of prosecution, and their kind of the guru was getting like death threats and stuff. So they fled, and they went to America, and it just gets crazier. The FBI get involved. State governors get involved. People die. They openly talk about how they've planned assassinations and succeeded with assassinations. Like,
yeah,
it's crazy.
I guess I was expecting Making a Murderer levels of like intrigue right till the end. I just felt like the series fizzled out a little bit. I mean, we have a whole section dedicated to criticism, which we both have something in particular we should talk about.
Yes.
But I feel like in this initial session, we've got through the giant, bizarre furniture, which of course is, the Wikipedia stuff is what people listen to this podcast for, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But there are two significant items of news, one of which you know about and one of which you don't know about because it's very new. The first of which is yesterday, 2 days ago, I ordered all of the T-shirts for the Wikicast. The orders have gone in. There were a few more than we expected. Between the Wikicast and the To Do Calculate, I ordered like 170 T-shirts.
It's amazing.
So yeah, that's a thing. I spent like the best over $1,000 on the production, which was more than I was expecting. But then again, we had way more orders than I expected. Like yesterday. Yeah. Yesterday was the most expensive day in the history of my company, because it is technically a company. But also, like, my bank account just didn't know what hit it. It was just like, what do you want from me? Like, you're putting all this money in, you're spending all of this money, you're taking a wage? Like, yeah, so that was pretty cool. I got to go in and, say, right, I've got all these T-shirts for you to make. By the way, there's this other design, and I gave him the USB drive with the To Do Calculate file on it. Yeah. And he loaded it up and was like, "Is that it?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's it." it just says To Do Calculate. I don't understand either, but like 100 people want these.
Yeah.
That was a fun experience. So yes, that's happening. They will be made and shipped by the end of the month. Also, fun fact, I will be shipping the stickers. The people who have just ordered stickers this weekend, because there was a slight delay. Partly my fault. I set up a little sheet because we wanted to include a little note with every package that said, from Simon and Dan, lots of love. Thank you for buying this. And I didn't do it whilst you were here, so I had to wait to send it to you and then get it sent back. Problem was, Muggins here didn't put enough postage on the envelope when he sent it back. So I got a happy little note from the Royal Mail saying, "Oh yeah, you've got to pay a fee if you want to if you want to get your letter. Except you'd put as the address to my colleague and then spelled my name wrong."
Did I spell your name wrong?
You put Clark with an E.
Oh, did I actually?
Yes. So I had to go.
I can't remember whether this was tied down thinking he was being funny. Because the Macaulay bit was definitely meant to be like that'll come through the door and he'll be like, oh, classic Dan.
Well,
but
it would have done.
Clark with an E may have just been me being overly tired.
It would have done if it had come through the door, but as it stood, I had to go on the Royal Mail website and be like, oh, hey, so you want to pay for extra postage? Great. Who's the letter addressed to?
Yeah.
I was like, my colleague, yep.
That's hilarious.
Let me pay this £1.50 postage fee.
Amazing.
So yeah, there was a slight delay, but that's going to be sent out. So hopefully, actually, as this podcast is being sent out, I might be doing the packing as you're listening to this, if it's this weekend. Yes, so that's happening. The other massive bit of news is Pixel Girl got a job. So yeah, she got a job. I will say where it is and bleep it for the podcast for Dan's purposes, but it's going to be in, which is in. It's quite close to. So that's a thing. We now know where we're going to live next year. So we're looking at houses at the moment, and it's really, really exciting because I've never moved in with a girlfriend before.
Yeah.
This is like point of no return, to quote Les Mis. So yeah,
that's
kind
very
of a
exciting.
big, like, obviously, like, moving in with you is like, it's somewhat different if it's a friend, right? Because
I mean, it's entirely different. Yeah.
yeah, like we didn't have sex all the time,
No,
right?
never.
So and also like if things go wrong, yeah, like if things go wrong in a friendship, you could still live together like for the length of the contract. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But like if you up in a relationship and you're living together, that's really bad. So it is like in my head, it's like, oh god, like you really can't up now, like because I mean, yes, we're gonna have a sofa bed, but like I would need a new place to live.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of scary, really. It's like the big, great leap forward in the relationship. I've never had this before, and it's like I'm being all adult.
Jeez.
I don't know how I feel about this. But there's fast internet there. There's going to be faster internet than I have here, and there's a gym, and there's a train station that goes to London. So yeah, like it sounds pretty perfect, really. I mean, it's Conservative seat, but other than that, it sounds pretty perfect.
Speaking of, it's voting day today, isn't it?
It is, and I'm an idiot because I didn't register in time.
Oh, Simon.
I know, I've let the side down. I really
Come
have.
on. I need to. When we finish recording, I'm going to go to the school same place that we did it last year, and vote.
Yeah, I feel like a mug. I really do, because it is super important, and I just it up. Yeah. So make sure you vote, kids, unless you plan on voting UKIP, in which case, you.
Hopefully, I'd be massively surprised if Exeter lost its Labour seat. It's not going to happen, but
yeah. Well, this is for the local council,
yes, it is.
Right? Yeah, rather than parliamentary. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm kidding, by the way. If you want to vote UKIP, you do you. It's important you express your voice. I just think you're scum. To be fair, also, who votes UKIP anymore? Really? Like
hardly anybody.
We've left the EU. Well, or have we? Thanks to the House of Lords.
Yeah, there we go.
We might just like it's going to be like that subreddit no yes, where like it looks like something's going to go horribly wrong, and then we just pull out of it at the last minute. Although, oh yeah, did you hear about the whole Brexit Queen thing?
No.
So I can't remember who it was. There was an elderly man in Parliament who was an MP. Apparently, he didn't just wander in.
You don't say.
Just say, who is this guy? He said of Theresa May, he called her the Brexit Queen, and said that he was going to erect a statue of her in his constituency and carry her through the streets. Peter Bone, that was it.
Was he a Tory?
Of course he's a Tory. He hasn't got a mark. He clearly isn't intelligent.
Peter Bone, did you say?
Yeah, Peter Bone. A statue will be erected to the Brexit Queen. Which sounds like a fairy story, but shit. Yeah, the Prime Minister will be carried through the streets. What the actual is happening in this country?
So he's the MP for Wellingborough.
Which sounds like a Conservative,
Yeah, so it's in Northamptonshire. It's near where I used to live.
Oh, right.
Heckin' righty George. Wow, his political career section and views and funding and expenses are colossal.
He's a Tory, is what you're saying.
Oh, for sake. Byrne employs his wife, Jenny, as his executive secretary.
Of course he does.
In 2007-2008, he paid her in the top bracket of up to £40,000 per annum. He was also one of the 32 MPs who claimed the maximum allowance of £4,800 a year on food.
I feel like I speak for basically every young person in the country when I say nobody cares about politics because we're so sick of people like this.
Oh, hang on. So he employs his wife,
right?
And that maximum £4,000 a year in 2007-2008. But in 2016, they separated. He separated from his wife Jenny, who is a Conservative councillor in the borough of Wellingborough, and his executive secretary in 2016, and is now in a relationship with Helen Harrison, a married physiotherapist, 20 years his junior. Fuck.
Young people in this country, this is why we don't care about politics. Because this is what we just assume all politicians do, and politicians do this because they know they can get away with it.
Yeah.
it's so dangerous. And like, obviously, I'm the person who's sitting here having not registered to vote in the local elections because I'm an idiot. But like, there's such a dangerous level of apathy towards politics in this country. Like, something needs to happen to actually get young people interested. And I know that that's the kind of thing that, like, Jeremy Corbyn did that to a certain extent, right? And you know, he's still doing people.
it. In his defense, he really is. Like, I think like the youth vote has never been more engaged than it is currently. I feel like the primary criticism that people are giving for Corbyn at the moment is they just think he's a weak leader, and the main reason for that is from Prime Minister's Question Time sometime last year. He was asked the question, if push comes to shove and you need to hit the red button, would you? And he didn't say yes once. He said no. We'd have to assess the situation and have discussions. And then people from that were like, oh, well, he couldn't possibly Prime Minister. What if someone fires on him? We were like, what a stupid theoretical ignorant question
people
to
have
ask.
very deliberately
of course, we
twisted
talk
his
about
words.
it.
Yeah.
Like, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Corbyn. I think he's a really, really honest, hardworking MP.
Yeah, he does seem to be. I mean, like, he is constantly seems to be fighting. He does constantly seem to be fighting against the media, like in terms of misrepresenting him. Obviously, there's been the whole anti-Semitism thing recently as well. I'm sure. Yeah. Wow, this episode is definitely not going to result in any heated discussion in the Discord afterwards. This is going to be fine. But you know, like the whole Labour Party as a whole, just I don't know. I know that there have been calls to create a new left-leaning political party, because that's the role that really the Lib Dems should be occupying. But everyone's like, oh yeah, but the tuition fees. You know, because apparently the people who object to the Lib Dems are white van men. I mean, I just wish that people were as engaged in politics, but not to the same fanatical level, like they are in America. Like, young people really care in America, and it seems like in a lot of other countries. Maybe it's a European thing. We just don't care, seemingly, because we seem to think that all politicians are basically the same.
This is so weird. I'm just going through Corbyn's Wikipedia page, and just through flicking through, I came across the most glorious sentence, which is Corbyn went on a motorbike tour of East Germany with Diane Abbott. This is amazing. After his marriage to Chapman ended in 1979.
Oh, this is in 1979.
Yep.
Wow.
He then married Chilean exile Claudia Braquita, granddaughter of Ricardo Braquita, the Consul General of Spain in Santiago, by whom he had 3 sons. In 2012, he married his Mexican-born partner, Laura Alvarez, in Mexico, who runs a fair trade coffee import business.
Isn't that nice?
I really like him. He collects manhole covers.
I forgot about that. It's the most Jeremy Corbyn fact possible, isn't it?
And he likes making jam, doesn't he? Like he's a big like conserve maker.
Yeah, he's like a male member of the WI. A lot of the activities that they traditionally do, he's dead into.
Yeah, I really like him. I'd love to meet him. I think he's and like the great thing is, like, from a views perspective, he knows his ideals ever since he got into politics, and he's just stuck with them. And when there's some great interview, there's one really great interview on Channel 4 where basically they out and out say, how do you keep doing what you do in the light of such kind of constant abuse from like other parties and other media outputs that are controlled by those parties? And he's just like, I'm here to do my job. I'm here to, I always wanted to be a politician. I'll die a politician. I want to try and make the world a better place. I'm like, oh God, Jeremy.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that like not too long ago, everyone was like, "God, there's no way he can stick around. He's on the way out." And now it's like Theresa May. Everyone's looking at her and going, "How are you still in your job? Like, how on earth you got rid of Amber Rudd? Yeah, because of the whole Windrush thing. But you were kind of responsible for that. Like, how are you still in your job?" The longer I'm alive, the more I just despair at how little people seem to care. But also, I can understand why people don't care, because everyone sees politicians being all the same. There's no real choice between the parties, because nothing really seems to change in politics. Like, admittedly, we've had a Conservative government for how many years now? 10? When did they win the election?
I don't know.
Like, but basically, the entire time that we've been adults and like kind of conscious of this kind of thing, it's been a Conservative government with audacity, austerity.
It was Blair and Brown. wasn't it? Brown was fairly recent. Gordon Brown.
Yeah, when did David Cameron win?
It's going to be something like 2010.
He was Prime Minister. Yes, in 2010. So we've had a Conservative government for 8 years.
Yeah. Long enough.
Yeah, I'd say. Well, like that's the whole thing. That's the whole reason you have like parties on the other side. The spectrum is that you flip flop between the two, and on the balance, you end up with a position that's somewhere in the middle. It's just that, like, at the moment, I don't know. Labour are looking stronger than they have for a while. Maybe we'll get a left wing government. This is absolutely scintillating talk. I use that word all the time when talking about this podcast, but
yeah,
Christ, I feel like we should go on to the next section where I know we have something that we're desperate to talk about. Do you want to talk about Infinity War?
Yeah, I do. I do want to talk about that.
All right, let's go.
So, we've now both seen it.
Yep, I saw it. It wasn't actually a midnight showing. It was about 11 p.m., but it was like the day after it came out. I saw it.
Well, I was meant to go to the midnight showing, and we got to fire. It was for David's kind of party thing. We got to Firehouse to have some drinks. I had like half a pint. I was like, I'm really tired. I'm gonna meet you. It was like 9. I was like, tell you what, I'll meet you at the cinema at like 11:45. I'm just gonna go home and chill out because I'm tired. Have a power nap, and I'll meet you later. So I did, and then I got a message from David saying, okay, we're just leaving Firehouse, meet you at the cinema. And I went, okay. And then I replied back 5 minutes later being like, yeah, I'm not gonna come. I'm really sleepy.
That is so you.
Yeah. So I just had a nap instead and went on one of my days off on my own. I got a really good seat in an IMAX theater, so it was
like
really cool.
Did you see it in 3D then?
No.
Okay, good. Because like
Never see a film.
every time I've
paying more to see a film that looks.
Yeah, the only time I've enjoyed a 3D film was I enjoyed seeing Avatar in 3D because that was how it was designed. That's my
example actually.
And also there was another thing I saw in 3D where I was actually like, this is kind of added to it. I think it was Inside Out.
Really?
There was something I saw and I was like, I don't think 3D would add to it, but actually it kind of did.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was. I think it might have been Inside Out. But yeah, also, I don't think I've properly enjoyed a midnight showing of anything. Like, I went to see episode 7 at midnight, I went to see Rogue One at midnight, and I went to see... actually no, I think I might have seen Deadpool at midnight with Michael.
Yeah, I saw episode 7 at Rogue One. I also saw some of the Harry Potters when they came out, which I obviously enjoyed because I'm obsessed.
But like, you never really get to appreciate the film because you're tired,
Yeah. Especially when you've been doing what we did, so we went and have some drinks beforehand because it was a birthday thing. That is a potent combination.
Yeah,
just enough drinks that you're just going to fall asleep.
Doesn't matter how.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't matter how exciting the film is.
So I'm glad I waited and actually saw it when I was also seeing it alone. So I had some time to kind of for my own thoughts and
and I imagine afterwards you were absorbed in your thoughts for quite a while.
I really was. So I think first off, I should say that I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I watched it and was like, yeah, that was pretty cool. I think the writers have done an amazing job to kind of handle the film in terms of its scope with the sheer number of characters and kind of like different storylines and timelines and how they've made these people meet and how it all fits together. It's actually done it's done admirably. I think there were numerous times where the pacing was completely off. I thought the entire edition of Peter Dinklage's character was like a piss take. That was so unnecessary. I mean, I can understand the necessity of Thor needing to go and get this axe, even though it felt really hammed up. Be like, we need a really strong
wait. Before you do that, right? I'm going to say right now, this is going to be a spoiler discussion. If you want to avoid spoilers, skip to the following time code: 53 minutes and 3 seconds. Okay, right. Okay. Now go for your life.
Yeah, so the whole thing with the axe, it felt a little bit like, that's a bit bullshit, isn't it? You've got somebody really powerful, we need a really powerful axe to stop him.
No, I can understand. I can totally get behind that.
It felt, for me, it felt a bit kind of like, that's kind of classic comic book. And I didn't mind it for that. What I did mind it for was that whole sequence of him going through getting the thing to start. You're meant to have some connection to Dinklage's dwarf character. We've never seen him before. He's like, screen time is like a couple of minutes. It's meant to be this really epic scene, and it just doesn't work because it's so far. I imagine there's a lot more that they cut out. It felt like there was a lot more to that sequence.
I mean, I totally agree about his character. I was like, they've definitely deliberately picked an actor who is a dwarf to be a giant. Like, that's...
Well, they call them dwarves,
some kind of
That's
meta joke.
the thing.
Yeah.
Which is why they were, like when we get there and you're like, oh, it's clever because they're called dwarves, but they're really big.
It must be, some reference to something in the comics. Obviously, like that's a bit of fan service. Like, as a character, it should have been somebody who we've met in some capacity, which isn't really a fault of this film. I feel like possibly that should have been set up in a previous film.
I just thought, like, why is Tyrion Lannister in...
Yeah, the classic problem is you cast someone who's too famous for a role.
Basically he basically played the same character.
Yeah.
They were so, like, it was... Yeah, so that was... I took issue with that. I think there were also moments where, as I say, the pacing just wasn't right. It didn't... It was like they've put so much work in to try and make this film to make sense. And then they were just like, oh, God, like, we're nearly done for the first half, and then we'll sort out the other stuff later.
I mean, my take on it was, I sat there for however long it was. I have to admit, I didn't feel like it went on too long, really. But I'm a massive fan, so
I would agree. Actually, I don't think it did go on too long.
But I was sat there for say 2.5 hours, however long it was, and I just remember thinking, this is good. Like, this is really good. But like, it's not making a deep emotional impact on me. Like, it doesn't feel momentous. But maybe that's just because I'm dead inside by this point. Like, I don't think very much has an emotional impact on me. The only time that it slightly tugged on my heartstrings was Spider-Man. Right at the end, where he's begging.
For me, that felt a bit hand in. I think also I can see what they were trying to go through with the whole Chris Pratt. Like, oh my God, we nearly killed him. We nearly got the glove off. And then you let your stupid humanity and love get in the way, and it's meant to be kind of like to be honest, I'm going to be really curious as to see what they do from here.
Oh yeah, that is something that I don't think anyone could argue, is that, like, after seeing this, you want to know what happens next.
Okay, but you also think, well, how is it gonna, half of everything, everyone in the universe is dead.
Well, that's the other thing, right? Is that, okay? Yeah, if I give like an overview, it's that, yeah, I thought the film was really enjoyable. I thought the fact that it is unprecedented. Like, obviously that's become a meme, but it is unprecedented what they've done, in that they have basically done away with classic film structure and just said, look, if you're going to watch this film, we know you've seen at least 5 of the previous films. You know these characters. Yeah. So, like, they've done away with a lot of convention, and they've brought together, like, 30 characters or 40, however many it is, and they've just, somehow they managed to write a film which took all those characters and they worked, and
also those the cultures that those characters belong to.
Yeah,
across the world of Black Panther and Thor, and Doctor Strange. I mean, Doctor Strange is my favorite. I mean, we can't really call him an Avenger, but he's my favorite Marvel character for sure.
Yeah.
Because I just the whole mystic arts thing I'm massively into, because I'm a World of Warcraft nerd, and it's like, ooh, it's kind of like a mage. But I think from a character perspective, he's just got a really interesting story and a really interesting way of kind of looking at. Also, that I didn't understand why he gave the thing away.
That's obvious why. Because he said there was one possibility in the however many million possibilities he looked at.
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
And there's one possibility. So, like, that to me, like, and I like the fact that they didn't baby you in that sense. It's just like, you're going to work this out. But, like, yeah, the fact that they were able to get all those cultures, all of those characters into... And then the way they did that, obviously, is that they didn't put them all in one room. They separated them out into the different threads. And those threads actually came together in a way that was satisfying. I think from a writing perspective... It's extraordinary. It's actually amazing to me how well the film worked. Like, I was never expecting... I thought it'd be a clusterfuck. honestly. I really did. But, like, it
Yeah.
actually came together. And you had a villain who you actually kind of understood. It wasn't just like, you know, I want to take over the universe kind of thing. There was, like, a justification for him. And, like...
Thanos had such humanity, didn't he? You could
Yeah,
absolutely understand and rationalise his view. And, like, well, have you heard about this? Like, there's a group on Facebook. You heard about this?
I've heard that there are groups on Facebook.
There's a group on Facebook basically being like, we believe in Thanos, totally agreeing with his attitude of what needs to happen to ensure that we don't just kind of like ravage this world.
Oh, you mean Malthusian economics? Great.
Yeah, like hang on, let me.
But I don't know. We have a glove that could do absolutely anything in the universe, like, I don't know, making infinite resources. Why bother killing half the universe? That's obviously like the main. Like, you could overthink it, and, you know, if someone said that to Thanos' face, it was like, oh shit, yeah, whoops. But, like, yeah, so to conclude kind of, like, my overview, I feel like the writing was exceptional. Like, the fact that they were able to structure it the way they did. Tonally, it did feel a little bit at odds sometimes. Like, sometimes it was a little bit too light. Sometimes it felt a little bit plodding. But I thought the pacing was fine. I thought the tone could have been improved. Overall, really entertaining, really, really solid film. Like, and yeah, they actually ended it in a way that no one's ever ended a summer blockbuster before, with the bad guy winning and half of your heroes dead.
Yeah.
Like, and Spider-Man, like a kid, begging for his life while his, like, adopted parent looks on and can't do anything as he turns to ash. Like, yeah. It's pretty dark. Like, so they did stuff that nobody else had done before, because nobody else had... I feel like this is going to be, like, in the history books of future cinema, this is going to be like this 10-year experiment, all these films interlinking, and they actually brought it together in a satisfying way. At least for the first half. They could still f*** up the second half, but, like, if this is anything to go by, I feel like part 2 is going to be this whole saga, all the arcs is like, this is historical stuff that's happening.
Yeah, it's as an exercise in storytelling, and as one of those when they're teaching narrative and plot in film studies courses, or even just like studies of novels. This would be such an interesting one to look at, and for someone to perform like an analysis on the script,
because it breaks so many of the rules. Yeah,
it's so different,
and it's only possible if you've had 15 odd films, whatever it is, 16, 17, 18 films before this, you know, to actually set everything up to the point where you're just like, yeah, we're going to ignore introducing characters. You know who these people are. It's as I said to begin with, though, it definitely didn't have much of an impact on me. Like, I just remember thinking, this is fun. Like, this is good. But, like, it's, you know, it's not emotionally devastating me or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that people like Sally LePage will be like, I didn't care. And I get that. I can totally get that some people just isn't going to do anything for them, because it only raised my heart rate a little bit. The time when it actually, like Spider-Man dying, and also at the end where they were killing Vision and all the Avengers are lining up to try and stop Thanos. I was like, this is kind of powerful. This is pretty cool. But good, but surface level entertainment is probably my summary. Were you able to find that thing you were looking for?
No. I remember, I think Hugo has it. I'll send him a message and see if I can, and then I'll put it on the Wikicast group page or something. But yeah, there's a Facebook group of people just basically being like, sympathising with Thanos and being like, yeah, he probably had a decent, like, he meant well by killing like half of everyone. Yeah. But then there were also comments. I heard some people coming out of the cinema being like, if that was the issue, well, actually no, that's a lie, a blatant lie. It was a Simpsons shitpost.
Yeah.
And it was the one that was like this little kid.
I shared that. Yeah, the kid being like, Thanos, why can't you just create? It's not the argument that you should create like double the universe. It's just make the resources infinite. Like, I love how people are like, that's not how the glove works, and it's like, it's a MacGuffin that allows you to do anything. That's the point.
Yeah.
But it's a superhero movie. You can't overthink it at the end of the day.
That's the thing. That's the thing. Like, you've got to take it for what it is. Ultimately, I think it's a good film. It's not perfect, but then nowadays, certainly with the amount of film criticism that we do and how invested we are in certain films, or just film in general, I think both you and I have really high expectations. When we see a film, we want it to really be good. That kind of to walk out and be like, wow, that was amazing, is rare. Because there's always something you can find to critique. Because part of, I think, the deeper that you criticize something, and the more kind of analysis that you can put onto a piece of art, it's almost kind of reflection of how much you care about it rather than how bad it is.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, in a way, it's just more impressive. It's not even impressive that it's good. It's more impressive that it wasn't bad. Like, considering how much we wanted it to be good, how much we went into it hoping it was going to be good. And if you were anything like me, assuming it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
I mean, do you have anything else that you'd like to I mean, I feel like that we're missing stuff, to be honest. Like, oh yeah, I do feel like the focusing, obviously it had to focus on Vision, right? Because he's got an Infinity Stone. But focusing on the relationship between him and Wanda weakened the film because you don't know anything about that relationship. I feel like if they were somehow able to put the focus on Hulk and Romanoff on Black Widow, that would have been much stronger because that's been there for so long. And that's been like the thread through the whole thing. Maybe they'll do that in part 2. But I feel like that would have been a stronger anchor to, to put the whole film on. Because I don't know about you, but I was just like I don't really care. Although, amazing little detail, when they're in Edinburgh, because it says Scotland, it's definitely Edinburgh. There's a little sign on the right-hand side of the frame in a kebab shop that says, "We will deep fry your kebab."
Yeah.
And then a little Scottish flag underneath, and I was like, yes. So they understood. But yeah, I just thought that was quite a neat little touch. Apparently they were fighting as well in Durham Cathedral.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that, but apparently, like when Vision and
Durham Cathedral.
Yeah, but apparently they also filmed in Durham Cathedral, but maybe that got cut.
I don't think there was anything in the film that was. I mean, I think I would have been like, ooh, that's inside a cathedral. I recognise that they may have been on a they were on a church roof, whether it was Durham or Cathedral or not, I can't remember. But
then I recognised the bits in Edinburgh, so I assumed that was in Edinburgh, but I don't think it was. But that we can do. Also, when they went back to Wakanda, I went with Alex. And as soon as the Wakandan music kicked in next to him, I could feel his excitement start to explode next to him. I was like, oh shit, here we go.
It's just such a culturally rich part of that universe, isn't it?
Yeah. In a way that Asgard never was.
No, because it was too distant. It was too other.
Yeah.
Whereas Wakanda's almost plausible.
Yeah, I suppose, because it's not a giant floating disc in space,
sitting on clouds. Yeah.
Although that was an interesting thing, actually. I did like the way they opened the film with Hulk fighting Thanos and immediately gets schooled because of course he was going to be like, that was going to be the thing. Everyone was going to be like, yeah, but what happens when Hulk fights Thanos? Like that's how they're going to win. It's like no, but also just choking Loki like a bitch.
And is he properly dead?
Oh, for sure. He is. As dead as the other characters in the film are. Like, the fact that they have the Infinity Gauntlet means that they can reverse time and everything like that.
Yeah. Because if he can click his fingers and wipe out half of life, he can click his fingers. Well, the glove's been damaged, hasn't it?
No, it wasn't. Thanos was hit by Thor's axe, which was a bit lame, incidentally. How they put Groot. The way that they handled Groot being the handle, I was just a bit like, well, that just feels like it's come out of nowhere. Yeah. Because when he comes in, he flies in with the axe, he hits him in the chest, but the glove still works because that's why he's able to snap his fingers.
I thought the process of him snapping the fingers required so much power that.
Oh yeah, I forgot. You're right. The glove's all f***ed up. Yes, you're right. I totally forgot.
So he can't use the glove to then because people were saying he can just click his fingers again and undo it. But it's the glove's been damaged, so he can't do that.
But the Infinity Stones should still. I don't think they get destroyed. I don't think.
That whole, I must admit, the bit where they take Vision's stone is destroyed.
Yeah.
and then he just walks through, reverses time, and takes it off him anyway.
Yeah, like, and he
I felt a little bit annoyed because I was like, oh, but we've just sat through this really long, harrowing scene of them having this moment, and then you're just gonna go like, yeah, f it, because I think part of me knew that he was gonna do that anyway. So why build it up?
But like that's the point. That's to like really hammer home the loss. I think because like
but it's like they're hammering home a point, and then there's literally like picking up a mallet and swinging it into your face. Like it's a bit much.
That's the whole conclusion. You could argue that that's like the whole thing that all the films have been building to. Really, that's the final moment. So if you're ever going to ham up a point, it's like it's making Wanda kill her boyfriend slowly and painfully, only to have him reverse time, rip the stone from him, and like make him look all grey and dead, and then turn her to ash. Like it's the. Yeah, Jesus Christ, that's probably one of the darkest bits of the whole film, actually.
Yeah, it is a dark film.
It is, and I don't know how they're going to handle the tone of the next film. Are they going to go in like Nolan-like and be like DC, full dark and gritty, and like everyone we know is dead? Or like of the Guardians of the Galaxy, the only one left is Rocket.
Yeah,
like all the original Avengers are still alive, but literally only Rocket survived from them. Only Thor still survives from Asgard.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot of dead people. I mean, like, Black Panther died. I was not expecting that.
No. Doctor Strange, he's gone as well.
Yeah. Spider-Man.
Because I love that character.
Yeah. I could have done with a bit more Doctor Strange, actually. And I could have done with him showing off his power a little bit more.
Because when you think about there was there was the fight that he has with Thanos. And then Thanos just uses the reality stone, and Doctor Strange is like, oh shit, no, my tricks won't work. But it is just such he's a being of like near infinite power. Because if you get them through into that, like, what was it called, like the mirror dimension?
Yeah.
If it takes up like a mirror dimension, anything goes, and it's completely set by him. Yeah, it's very cool.
That has to, like, from a purely geeky film perspective, it's like it was so cool to see just how powerful he was, and like he's taking Avengers out like it's nothing. Like that final walk when everyone's trying to stop him, and like Cap is like trying to hold him off, and like he's just swatting all these people away. But then also to have Thor, like Thor seems to be now the most powerful character apart from Thanos.
That's kind of that felt a little bit like, oh wow, he is really strong.
Like when he turned up and like Hulk is like, yeah, you guys are screwed now.
yeah, because he's got the he gets the all like the lightning eyes and just starts going a bit mental.
Yeah.
It is cool.
But yeah, I feel like we also talked about A Quiet Place last time. I have not been able to go to the cinema since Infinity War because Alex has been away and he's my lift. So I have yet to see A Quiet Place, but I have every intention of going to do so.
I'm looking forward to having that conversation with you.
Yeah, it's
because it's that's going to be one of my films of the year.
I will submit myself to pure terror for you. I hope you.
I appreciate it.
I hope you appreciate it. Yeah.
I have to message Alex and be like, make sure you try and just like really, if you can sneakily try and. You obviously won't be able to get your reactions, but that'd be hilarious.
Yeah, I feel like we have talked for quite a while, and we should probably move on because we do have other sections of the podcast. We do have a fan fiction.
We do.
So I hope that you guys have enjoyed our very spoilery discussion of Infinity War. Welcome back, for those of you who skipped.
Yes.
You should see the film, by the way. It's really good. That's our basic conclusion.
Yeah, it's very good.
Onwards! Top lad! Thank you for watching Wikicast Infinity War. We'd like to thank the following people for making it possible. Stan Lee cameo by Marat oh my god, what name is that?
Oh my god.
By Marat Vakira Punyawat.
Punya what?
Punya what?
Doctor Strange's cloak tamer, Azhagu Nagapan Nagasaravanan, and Simon Vase.
Takes two people to wrestle it down.
It's a powerful cloak.
Muscle oiling team to Mr. Hemsworth, Phi Welch, Henry Brewster, and Lewis Watson.
Iron Man Suit 1 Polisher, Davy Schramm Vontabell.
Iron Man
Suit. Yeah, okay. Go on.
Hawkeye excuse finder, Eric Davis.
Vision's optometrist, Tapio Kirkinen.
Very good.
Is left better or worse? Is it better or is it worse?
The Power Stone or the Time Stone? Power Stone or Time
Those stones again, the Palace Stone and the Time Stone.
What's the lowest Infinity Stone that you can read?
You can yeah. There's a sketch in there somewhere.
Hair for Mr. Thanos, Billy Toulson.
Black Panther tamer, Wonderful Stephen.
Quip writers for Mr. Downey Jr., Elliot Conway, Ben McMurtry, David Scalehill, and the Moustache Man. There's a lot of quips.
Spider-Man babysitters, Kieran Kelly, Angela.
Handler preventing Danny Dyer from appearing in the film, Habiba Amjad.
Hulk's dietitian, Jay Wright.
He only eats green foods.
Yeah.
It's very specific. Doctor Strange's assistant, Dr. My Lungs Don't Work Properly, Dan Hanby.
Asgardian translator, Emma Kavanagh.
That's an Asgardian name. Not many people know that.
Yeah, this is the thing.
Team responsible for embiggening Peter Dinklage, Lachlan Woods, and John Mannion.
Great use of embiggening.
Yeah, it embiggens the noblest man.
Yeah. Spider-Man understudy, Matt Maguire. See, it's a slow burner, but it kind of makes sense. Yeah.
Provider of monocles to Mr. Fury, Nick Webster.
Star-Lord's personal DJ, Miles Cornfeld.
Ooga chaka, ooga, ooga, ooga chaka, Luke Thatcher. Sorry, that should be Luca Thatcher, Luca Thatcher, Luca. I can't stop this fear.
Captain America chest buffer, Geordie Eschendahl.
What a job! And directed by the Russo brothers, Simon Torseth and Alex Greer.
Thanks for the money. Okay, let's go. Thank you so much to all our patrons for supporting us. As Simon mentioned earlier in this podcast, the T-shirts have actually been ordered. The stickers are going to be coming out as well. The vinyls to go on. I've actually got one on my laptop as we speak. It's looking lovely. But yeah, your support really counts. The same goes for whether you can kind of provide financial support, but people who are kind of active in all areas of the Wikicast community, whether that be on the Discord or posting things in the community section of the Patreon or posting things onto the Wikicast Facebook page, anything, or just shit posting that Simon and I get sent on Twitter by a daily basis. We appreciate everything. And
Love
oh
it.
my God, there's a cat on the fence.
Well, it's funny you should mention that one, Dan, because in the top lad tier is its own.
I'm just lining it up in my sights. Just about to get it.
And Team Dog and Team Cat have been locked in their own battle for the people pledging $1 a month. Team Dog has 27 patrons, but this week Team Cat has 29 patrons.
Oh no!
Team Cat,
Dog,
we are no longer on the fence.
This can't go. It looks like. Guess who's going to be pledging $3? This guy.
Well, if you feel like that is unjustifiable and that Team Dog should be the supreme household pet, then you know what to do. You need to go to the patreon.com/the Wikicast and pledge $1 a month to Team Dog. But of course, if you're a sensible person like me, you'd want to put your dollar behind Team Cat and make sure that we stay on top. Thank you very much to all of our patrons on Patreon. It really does make a massive difference. It covers the hosting costs of the podcast. It covers the merchandise. So we are incredibly indebted to you. So thank you very much. And now let's go on to a crisis, shall we?
Let's do it.
Top lad.
So we find ourselves once again in Correspondence Corner, and I believe, Simon, we have one for this week. Is that right?
We do. We've had a few people email in. Anonymous has been very busy this week. A lot's been happening to Anonymous. So this week, Anonymous has emailed in, and I'm going to read you out the full message, and then we'll talk about the crisis that Anonymous is facing and how we can help. Anonymous begins. Evening, gents. The following is my submission for Crisis Corner concerning therapy. This is a throwaway account I use for anonymous emails, but rest assured I am a regular and long-term reader. Glad to hear it. I've recently undertaken cognitive behavioral therapy sessions as advised during a depressive episode I experienced some months ago. This was the latest in a string of similar breakdowns over the past year, and thus therapy seemed like a worthwhile endeavour. Having spoken with my therapist for countless hours over a number of weeks, it soon became clear that this methodology was largely to challenge my thought processes. He would first ask me to explain the fullest extent how and why I felt a certain way, then to self-analyse this thought pattern, to evaluate it, to question its validity and integrity, and finally to change it. For some context, a prevalent issue of my mental health is a form of body dysmorphia, wherein, regardless of my weight, I loathe the sight of my own body. My weight tends to fluctuate a hell of a lot, through some periods of relentless starving and others of uncontrollable gorging. Whether I'm 2 stone underweight or 3 stone overweight, I'm always too fat. Always. I cannot walk past a mirror without doing some involuntary checks to monitor my size. Mere millimetre differences in some areas can cause me to obsess for weeks, sometimes leading to self-harm. In any case, describing this to my therapist resulted in me being given treatment largely used to treat OCD, called exposure and response prevention, developed at the University of Exeter. I've had this pack of instructions for a week now. It involves documenting every obsessive compulsion I have regarding my weight, as well as the time elapsed between obsessive thoughts. I then, presumably, take these records to my therapist and we evaluate my progress with the goal to diminish my beliefs bit by bit over time. My problem is this. Should I, or can I, really change the way I think? Is changing something this far ingrained within me, a belief this fundamental, not changing myself? Can one choose to believe something? Am I within my rights to find this whole thing terrifying? I appreciate neither of you may have experience with therapy, or perhaps you do, but I would appreciate your thoughts nonetheless. Thank you, Anonymous.
Well, that's an interesting one.
That is a very interesting one. So the basic issue here is, can you ever fundamentally change the way you think, and is doing so fundamentally changing who you are? What's your initial take on that, Dan?
I think you can change the way you think, and I think it's not changing who you are. It may be changing an aspect of yourself, but the thing to remember is that we're changing all the time. So that kind of internal change, personal internal change, is happening whether we know it or not through you kind of growing and developing as a person just through age or experience, but then also growing kind of in kind of emotional and kind of behavioral maturity. I would say, I think to answer your final question, which was, am I within my rights to find this whole thing terrifying? Absolutely. It's a big change. I think for you to be just completely kind of complacent through going something so kind of dramatic would be would be that would be the strange thing. It sounds like this. I mean, you're right in saying. I mean, I don't have any experience with therapy, but it sounds like this form of treatment would be interesting because especially the documentation of records means that you're part of the process rather than just going in and seeing something once a week and then them writing stuff down, either prescribing you medication or something like that. But actually you and the therapist are always on kind of like almost like an equal level each way through. I don't think changing the way you think in this aspect is changing yourself at like a fundamental level. I think it will feel like that because it's something that you've known all your life, from what's been said in the email. But that's not who you are. It may have been a part of you, but it doesn't have to define you. As I say, I think the most important thing to remember is that we're changing all the time, regardless of whether we see therapists or not. So to kind of not necessarily welcome the change with open arms. I think do be cautious and treat it seriously, and don't feel if it is quite overwhelming.
I think it's completely justifiable to find it terrifying.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, at the end of the day, you feel it's a bit like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, right? You're having the way you think torn apart. Or alternatively, if you want a literary reference, you could think of it in terms of Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
Yeah.
You know, it's tearing apart the way you think. In terms of how do you phrase this? Can one choose to believe something? Is changing something so far ingrained, not changing yourself? An expression that I came across recently, which I quite like, is the seer is not what is seen. So the fact that you are able to kind of look on this, not dispassionately, obviously, but you're able to look on proceedings from a distance and see what is going on, means that there is another level to you. It's not necessarily changing who you are as a person. Of course, it's part of you. So yeah, in some senses, you know, you as an entity will change because of the therapy, because at the end of the day, that's the point, right? You're changing the way you're thinking. But the whole thing about the seer is not what is seen, is that there is a framework that you are able to look at these events from. And I feel like that is a kind of invariant, eternal kind of thing, that therapy isn't going to change, that your consciousness, the fact that you're aware of your own consciousness, isn't going to change. I feel like therapy will... It's not the same as repainting, you know, like a car or something, but equally it's not like replacing a car. It's somewhere in between. It's like changing the way that
it's like checking it in for a service, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're not necessarily making any fundamental changes to it that are, as you say, like changing the color or changing the parts, but you're going to go across each part one by one and maybe give them a clean.
And it's making it better.
Yeah,
is the point. You know, you might take a car into service because it has some kind of behavior which is causing it to gradually shake itself apart. It might be that a part isn't, like the engine isn't particularly... I don't know anything about cars here, but it might well be that the engine is loose, and so it's rattling around and it's causing the car to shake itself apart. If you take it into a service and you change the bolts that hold down the engine, you change the way that the engine is tied into the chassis, then it's not changing who you are. The car is still the same, the engine is still the same. It's just changing the way that the components interact with each other.
Yeah.
With a positive outcome. That, of course, is terrifying because you are going into the doctors, having your bonnet lifted up and having people lean in with spanners and, you know, forcefully change things beyond your control. Because at the end of the day, like, I feel like I've not been to therapy. I feel like I probably should have done several times, but I feel like if you go to therapy, you probably feel a little bit out of control. You feel like people are going into your head and Charles and tweaking things, you know? Which is why, of course, you should find it terrifying. I think you're completely right to. But it's not changing who you are. I don't think.
No, I'd agree.
And from the sounds of your message, you know, you are fixing a behavior, you're altering a behavior which I think you realize needs to be checked, needs to be changed, because you recognize that it's not healthy.
Yeah.
And I think it's very brave of you to say, I find this terrifying, but I still want to go through with it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it's completely rational to send us an email that says, I don't know if it's going to work. Like, is this even possible? Like, is this not going to change me? I think it represents a lot of bravery to do what you're doing. I think it does work. I think it can change the way you think. It requires you... It's like meditation, probably, in that it requires you to believe that it will work in order for it to work. So I think you have to go into it with an open mind, and it sounds like you are, but like with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Yeah.
You know, which I think is reasonable. But I think it can work. I don't think it changes who you are as a person fundamentally. I think it changes components of you. It rewires you somewhat. It's leaning in and tweaking the engine.
Yeah.
But of course, yeah, that is scary. You know, Anonymous, I like we did last week, I think a communal Wikicast hug goes out to every single person who's featured on Crisis Corner. But you are being very, very brave, Anonymous, for doing this. It's something that I've never been brave enough to go in for therapy.
Yeah.
You know, even when I probably should have done in the past. But I think you are doing the right thing. And I think it
Absolutely.
can work.
Well, thank you so much, Anonymous, for messaging in. As Simon said, it's an incredibly brave thing to do, not only to kind of go down the path that you're going down, but also to kind of email in. And granted, that's why we think it's really important to keep these crises anonymous. But we kind of wish you well with everything that's going on. It would be really interesting, actually, to see, maybe in given that both Simon and I aren't kind of used to this therapy, and this is something that's new for you as well. If anything changes, to write in again.
I'd be very interested in a follow up. I would.
Let us know how it's going. Even if it, it's anonymous, but maybe it will feel nice to know that there's certainly Simon, myself, and maybe anyone else who's listening is kind of rooting for you and wanting to make sure that things are going well. Yeah.
Very much. I feel like, imagine a little line of readers with pom-poms and cheerleader outfits. Only male, though. I only want male cheerleaders in tiny skirts and pom-poms, and we're spelling out anonymous. And, we're rooting for you. I think, as I said, I think you're being very, very brave, and I respect you an awful lot for going through with this.
We've got an email here from Hecking Ruddy George.
Hey!
It's titled A Heartwarming and Pleasant Email. It says, Dear Salmon and Dane, spelled D-E-E-R, salmon as in the fish, and Dane as in a great dog. Non-inflammable, infallible, inflatable flannels, candles and handfuls of untraceable laser-filled planets and bad habits, cases of cake.
What? I'm sorry, what? What? Slow down! Well, I feel like I'm having a stroke here. What's going on?
Right. It's classic. It's a classic Heck and Ready George email. Okay, we'll start again.
Oh my
Non-inflammable, infallible, inflatable flannels, candles, and handfuls of untraceable, laser-filled planets and bad habits, cases of cases caked in cake, and in homeostasis, in place of provision I should be doing. Please send help. Also, next week, expect a fan fiction from me. There'll only be one chapter. There will not be a sequel. You have been warned. Kind regards, Hecking Ready George.
Oh my God.
Rereading this email, it sounds as though I've gone insane. I assure you I have not. It's just what revision does to a man. PPS, please send help.
Wow.
Hecking Ready George, it's always a pleasure to hear from you. We're glad that your brain is just still as mental as ever.
I am really concerned about what a fan fiction from him is going to be like. That's quite something. Hecking Ready George, we're always glad to hear from you. It's been lonely without Hecking Ready George.
It has. Hasn't been the same.
But someone else who's got back in touch after last episode is Matthias. So I don't know if you remember, but this was Matthias, who thought we were going to butcher his name. We didn't, because we read the postscript first. Who was trying to decide whether they should stay in America or go to Singapore for their
master's degree.
PhD, wasn't it? They were doing their master's degree in America.
Right, yes.
They're from Peru, and they weren't sure where they should go. So we have a follow-up email. Dear Messrs. Clark and Moore, or Cat Dog, which again, I want to see that Photoshop. I want to. Someone tweet me a Photoshop of Dan and I as Cat Dog, please. I'm just going to demand memes by this point. Matthias says, I just finished listening to the podcast, and thanks a lot for the advice. I did end up choosing Singapore! Way! And we'll be moving there in August with a 2-month break at home. I'm in serious need of some Peruvian food. Oh, if you're not aware, Peru has won the award for Best World Culinary Destination consecutively since 2012. I've never heard of Peruvian food. I wonder what it is. Yeah. Well, obviously, it's food from Peru. But
nice.
Wow, he's not kidding. But what characterizes Peruvian food? Hang on, I'm going to Google this. Peruvian nights. Peruvian cuisine. I'm seeing. Oh god, this is overwhelming. This is like a whole new world, a new fantastic point of view.
Incidentally, the Hugh Jackman. I've just seen that. It's pretty funny.
I'll include a link to this meme in the show notes. I saw that. I've been browsing Imgur for some of this episode. I just saw that and I was like, yes,
that's funny.
I'm looking up, but oh god, right. I'm looking at something. It looks like sweet potatoes. There's ingredients I don't even recognize. There's like a kind of a coleslaw with greens. Stir fried beef is another dish here. Creamy chicken with rice. It looks like a really interesting fusion of different cuisines. Potatoes and a spicy cheese sauce. Guinea pig. That's just a straight up roasted guinea pig with roast potatoes. Oh my god, that's horrible. Oh, it's like, imagine a guinea pig, but its mouth is contorted open in fear, and it's just roasted like that whole. Oh, oh, that is horrible. Yeah, it says on this website, one of the Andean region's most popular sources of meat, the other being alpaca, this guinea pig as food strikes fear into the hearts of Westerners who think of it more as a pet than a meal. But consider tendy, smoky, dark meat beneath a glistening golden veneer of shatteringly crisp skin. No, I don't want to. Why do you keep...
That's a creepy sentence, isn't it? Shatteringly crisp skin.
Why are both of your main sources of meat adorable? Alpacas and guinea pigs. I mean, apart from that, a lot of these dishes are vegetarian, in fairness. Oh, apart from I've just got to the anticuchos de corazón, grilled heart.
Wow.
And arroz con pato.
Like as the grilled heart.
Desiref, the Peruvian plate. Tell you what's really underrated. Fucking Stanford Te Deum. I was thinking about that the other day. Really underrated piece of music.
It's all right.
Yeah, but like it's good, but like no one ever seems to talk about it. It's a solid piece by Stanford.
Yeah.
Anyway, back on. Anyway, we were talking about Peruvian food. Since going back to Matthias's messages, since I'll be moving abroad again, what are your suggestions about adapting to a new culture and a new academic environment? I know you may say, "Hey, but you've already lived abroad," but I didn't experience such a big change when moving from South America to North America. Besides the language, but I think this might be the case in Southeast Asia. Also, I was wondering if Dan experienced something like this when he moved to the Netherlands and/or Australia. Also, you did get the name right. Hey. I mean, to be honest, like I've never had a culture shock because I've only ever lived in the UK. That might change next year, maybe, but like, yeah. What about you're the only person I think that can really answer this.
Yeah, I mean, for most of the places that I've moved to, I've been there's been some kind of remnant of British culture there. So I was at the British school in the Netherlands, in the Netherlands, funnily enough, and then Australia is part of the Commonwealth, so in terms of cultures, they're quite similar.
Yeah.
Really, I noticed I had quite a big culture shock when I did some volunteering in Vietnam. That was pretty different. Likewise, we used to kind of holiday in Bali and Fiji. Again, incredibly different, especially from like kind of like when you see you're going from the airport to like the resort you're staying in, and you just drive past like shocking poverty. And part of you just be like, this is really weird. And the only way that you can almost enjoy the holiday is to try and put it out of your mind. And you know, like you're not exposed to it when you're in the fenced off, security guarded part of the place that you're in. I haven't really encountered it. I'd love to. I really, over the past couple of months, I've been really, really keen to. I want to live in America for a bit.
Yeah.
I've had this kind of feeling where even if it's just for maybe a year, I'd like to spend a year in America. And like somewhere really central, really busy, and then use that time there to like in some off time to go and actually travel around, but then also just like soak up American, just soak up America.
Yeah, like bread in dripping,
like bread in chowder.
Chowder. I had chowder the other day, and I was when I was on holiday in Dorset. I had fish chowder. I was so fucking close to being. Like, can you repeat the order back?
Yeah.
So like, and you're having the fish chowder. I was like, I'm sorry, what? Doing chowder.
Chowder. Yeah, I'd love to go there, but I haven't really encountered like tremendous culture shock. The biggest was probably in the Netherlands, just knowing that everyone speaks a language that I don't. That was pretty tough. But again, at school, everyone spoke English. So
I mean, like a new academic environment, I feel like you're all in it together, really. From the perspective of starting a PhD, you're probably going to be that will help a lot. You'll have a structure that you can.
In the immortal words of Zac Efron, we're all in this together.
Is that from
High School Musical? Yeah.
I don't think the only film I've ever seen which has Zac Efron in is The Greatest Showman. I don't think I've seen any of his other films. I watched a fair part of Baywatch.
Also featuring a Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, no, do you mean Hugh Jackman or a huge yak man?
Jackman, yeah.
Yeah, that's an important distinction. I watched a fair bit of Baywatch over someone's shoulder on a plane because it was full of very attractive people. Every now and again, I just look up and it'd be like, oh, it's Alessandra Daddario or whatever her name is. Oh, it's Zac Efron, the impossibly pretty man. Yeah. Sorry, why are we talking about Zac Efron? I mean, I'm glad that Matthias ended up in Singapore. I think that's the right decision. And basically, starting the PhD, I think culturally that will help because there will probably be other people coming from all over you will probably be known as that Peruvian guy, but you won't be the only like person from the West, I'm guessing. So that will probably help. I think just go with the flow. Follow what everyone else is doing and just keep your ears open. It's probably
embrace the new culture too. Embrace new
definitely
things and
like,
just get out there and see the world. And
amazing opportunity to travel. Like if I'd started a PhD in Singapore, I'd be all over the place. I'd be trying to trying to travel and see all the nearby parts of Southeast Asia that I wouldn't otherwise get to see. I think that's amazingly exciting.
Definitely. But yeah, we wish you well.
Yeah, good luck, Matthias. And now we have a fan fiction. We didn't do this last week because we ran out a bit short of time, but we have time this time round to give proper attention to chapter 3 of. Does this have a name? It's Cameron. It's the Moustache Man's fan fiction.
Is it the one with the time? That's not Time Traveller.
No. This is the one where I think you missed the last one because it was when Sally was here.
Ooh.
So it turned out we were in a game.
Ooh.
We were in a game all along. I'll read his message. Tell you what. Okay, so Moustache Man writes, Konnichiwa, Simon-san, to Danyuru-san. I am hoping this email gets to you in time for recording of episode 31. Sorry. I loved seeing Sally on episode 30, and it may be one of my favourite episodes ever. What?
Oh.
Thanks, mate.
Okay.
Though it's difficult to say since they're all freaking good.
There we go.
Plus, Sally ripped into me about my moustache and beard for a good 5 minutes. I was in hysterics. Thanks for having my back on that one, Simon. Hey, I did. It's a great moustache. I'm looking forward to the t-shirt coming out just as well. They've just been ordered. And I already have the sticker on my laptop. Of course you do. Speaking of which, I had a nice conversation with a stranger on the train on the way home who asked me what the sticker was for. I explained the podcast to them and they said they would give it a listen.
Ooh.
There we go.
Nice.
This is how it works. It was nice seeing down in Bristol, and I hope you enjoyed having me and Adam as tour guides. I've now met both of you.
It was amazing. I had a fantastic time.
Yeah, I mean, he's a lovely guy, isn't he?
They're both absolutely fab.
I've now met both of you and can say you're both fantastic people, and I hope I see you both again soon. Aww. That's nice. Anyway, as for the fanfiction, this week our two adventurers start in a new game, the Skaven Strike. It was a bit hastily written, but I like how it turned out, and I hope you're prepared for next week. Thanks, the Moustache Man. P.S. I have a nice little surprise for the Wikicast coming in the next few weeks.
Ooh.
I could guess what that is, but I want it to be a surprise, so I won't guess. So I think I'm right in saying that this one was inspired also by the writing prompt that we gave about the God shall decide our fate and like the hammer.
Yeah.
What you missed last time was we were in a game, but also Sally suggested that if I'm going to do you with an Australian accent, I should have a West Country accent.
Okay. Because
neither of them are how we actually sound. So here we go. This is chapter 3 of
a story.
A story by the Moustache Man.
Oh, hang on. It says look at the top of the Word document. Does that give you a clue as to what it was again? It's titled VAOSAD.
Oh yeah. The Virtual Adventures of Simon and Dan. I think that might be.
Yeah.
I'm making it that now anyway. Or Valsad. Chithra. .odt. Simon and Dan logged into the newest Warhammer-based virtual reality massively multiplayer online role-playing game, the Skaven Strike. I bet you thought that was going to be a mouthful, didn't you, Moustache Man? Ha! A laugh in the face of your MMORPG terminology. Simon flicked over to his brutish cleric priest, a 7-foot monstrous half-giant with muscles much larger than Simon had in real life. As much as he claimed to go to the gym, he wasn't actually swole as he led people to believe. Hey, I have never claimed to be swole. I'm getting swoller, but I had a very low starting point, alright? My stat was very low at the start of the grind.
You rolled poorly.
I rolled poorly and I'm trying to grind, okay? But yeah. Not trying to be the mountain. His character adorned long light blue robes under the large metallic plates that formed his heavy armour. He was thrust into this persona as soon as he put his VR helmet on and took a moment to appreciate the weight of the huge hammer he carried in his right hand.
Then he picked up his hammer.
Hey. The hammer is my penis. To quote, have you seen Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Most people would need 2 hands to carry you, he muttered to the... Sorry, let me do that ASMR-y. Most people would need 2 hands to carry you, he muttered to the inanimate weapon. At that moment, his large 4-headed friend joined him in the game. Dan was new to this game and had decided to play as a goblin mage.
Yeah, Gobos for the win.
The height difference between him and his companion particularly amused him, since he now stood at just over 3 foot tall.
So it's just like me, really, in real life.
Yeah, basically. 4 foot height difference. The teamwork dynamic that the pair had become quite effective. Dan used his magic to protect the priest from distance, shielding him and eliminating flanking threats, while Simon hammered people into the ground with very little effort, breaking up the long lines of a formation with a single swing.
If this failed, Dan would just run at his target and gnaw at their kneecaps until they got annoyed. Yeah.
Jump on their back, like stabbing them with like a butter knife. Like, go for the eyes! Dan was often quite jealous of the sheer strength of Simon's character, but knew deep down that his magic vastly outperformed those of any arcane casters he knew of.
Absolutely.
The pair made their way towards the nearby elven citadel in search of a quest. They both agreed to take it relatively easy after their stressful escape in Starfleet yesterday. Nice avoiding of brand names there, Moustache Man. Nice. I don't know what on earth you could possibly be referencing.
I mean, he did just start this with being the newest Warhammer-based virtual reality massively multiplayer online.
Oh yeah,
warfare
true.
game.
True, it's a bit like Belinda Blinked, like randomly sometimes avoiding sponsorship.
Yeah.
They had only been walking for a few minutes, taking in the vast landscape of the rolling hills and snowy mountains in the distance, before an elderly man hobbled over towards them. Oh god, I need a new voice. Excuse me, good sirs! The old man forced out.
That's not old enough. That's not old enough. I've got the script up. I'll tell you what, I'll voice the old man.
Alright, you voice the old man. This is going to get confusing.
Sorry, can I have my cue line again, please?
Excuse me, good sir. Oh, sorry. Before
That's my line.
Before an elderly man hobbled over towards them.
Excuse me, good sirs.
The old man forced out. How can we help you? Dan asked politely, as he looked up at the old man.
I'm looking for some help with a problem I've been having with some orcs nearby. They've been rampaging through nearby farms, and I'm afraid that mine is next.
Dan glanced at Simon. They both nodded in agreement. This was perfect. A nice little fight to get them warmed up. Nothing too stressful. Certainly, Dan confirmed. I'm sure my friend here would love to help you. Do you know where these orcs are camping out?
Thank you. They hide out in a couple of miles outside of town. Head east and you should see them.
And keep your forked tongue behind your teeth.
We've been travelling for 40 days.
It's just Gandalf.
It's just Gandalf.
The old man sounded grateful, but Simon thought something sounded a little off. He chose to ignore it and just get on with the task. We'll get that sorted for you as soon as possible, Simon spoke, in the thick Bristolian accent that a beautiful enchantress had once cursed him with in the early days of this game. Are you calling Sally a beautiful enchantress? That's wrong on 2 levels. Simon and Dan both agreed it would be best to attack at nightfall, give them the element of surprise, not that they particularly needed it. Instead, they decided to head to a local tavern and check out the local scene.
Yeah, of course it is.
It's like, pumping clubs
to be
around
fair,
here.
that's exactly what we did when we got into Amsterdam for VidCon. We put our stuff at home and we both turned to each other and went, drink? Like, yeah, drink.
Literally the first thing we did. Actually,
and I got cross that they didn't serve pints.
It was when I was on holiday. I didn't say this in Dorset, and we were basically the group I was with split into 2, and we were on 2 different sides of the street. And I wanted to try and communicate to the other people, like, do you want to get a drink? So I just turned to them and I just did like the hot fuzz spray maneuver. Like you lift your arm up and it's like pub, just spray, and they were immediately like, yeah, just down there. Like West Country code now for if you want to go to the pub is just like pretending to spray yourself. Anyway. Yeah. Simon barged through the door and shouted, I'll have 6 flagons of your finest cider at the barkeep. He was a large fellow after all. Dan, that's just for me. Dan shuffled in after the half-giant and wandered up to the scruffy man behind the bar. Hang on. Just 3 flagons for him will be fine, thanks, and I'll have a pint of the Doom Pole Ale.
Nice. Doom Pole.
Like it. Dan was quite timid in his form. His height didn't do much to boost his confidence. Plus, people were a bit on edge with goblins. His aim was to try and fix that. The bartender confirmed the order with a thick Irish accent.
There you go.
Over to you. You can do all the ancillary voices.
Sure thing. I'll bring them over.
Brian? Oh my god, Brian, you're here. The pair discussed their plans while they drank. And soon it was dusk, and time to head east. They made their way through the wilderness for the east until they saw a large camp lit by torchlight. Me, I can't talk. They made their way through the wilderness to the east until they saw a large camp lit by torchlight. Maybe 40 or 50 orcs were able to stay there. As they approached the edge of the clearing, a horn blasted, and arrows started to land just 10 feet in front of them. Simon was right. Something had been wrong. Shit, he said. That old man must have tipped them off. I knew something was up.
You just hear in the distance.
You fuckers, I've got you now.
You should have flown, you fools. We just
Gandalf, whistle for them eagles.
Oh, that's Shadowfax, you stupid bastard. Anyway, where are we? We just can't... Oh, sorry, it's you. We just can't catch a break, can we? Dan sighed.
I sound manic. Everything, even in this situation where we're trying to sneak in, you can't do an Australian accent without shouting.
Permanently wide eyes.
Yeah.
We just can't catch a break, can we? Have you seen the cat? Where's the cat?
The intonation and kind of like vocal line throughout it's always just all the kind of the emphasis is on the wrong bit. We just can't catch a break, can we? Like, it's like, what? What's wrong?
Why is everything a question? Oh well, here it goes for nothing. For the Emperor! Simon screamed as he raised his hammer and charged forward into battle.
Nice.
And that's the end. That's the end of the chapter. The idea of having like a West Country warrior priest is so weird.
Yeah. It works though, doesn't it?
I like this. Could somebody write, like, as a future, like, what's it called? Project. Could somebody do a script where, like, we actually do the lines together? I quite like that dynamic of we're both reading the script, but we're both sight reading it.
We can both have an accent off, which is quite fun.
Yes, Irish is good. He says, like, probably pissing off the entirety of Ireland. Anyway, Iron. What? Sorry?
Hi, now, Brian Kai.
Are there consonants in there? Anyway, we just lost a whole bunch of listeners. Dan, what have we learned today?
Today, Simon, we have learnt about chair sculpture, a public artwork currently on display in the Anacostia neighborhood of Washington, D.C., United States.
What's the point?
It's just a big chair. It's not even as good as the other big chair, the broken chair in Geneva, and the other big chair, the writer that was on Hampstead Heath, isn't there because it was only temporary.
Again, what's the fucking point? Honestly, of all the articles we've ever had in the history of the show, that's
big chairs.
That's got to be one of the most pointless.
Waste of time. Absolute waste of time. We did, however, have a very riveting discussion about the fact that merchandise has been ordered.
Woo!
And we're going to be starting sending those away. We've also had a chat about Infinity War.
Yes, we have.
And shared our views there. We had a really, really interesting...
And shared our views there.
Very nice. A really interesting Crisis Corner, and we hope that the kind of our thoughts and opinions were vaguely helpful, if not comforting.
Yeah, at least hopefully we hope we didn't do any harm. It's like the Hippocratic Oath of the Wikicast. Do good, or at least try and do no harm. That's what we try and do.
Yeah.
And then we had a short little correspondence section, and we had a fan fiction. And also, do you want to, what's the update on people who have emailed in about editing? Because we talked about that last time.
So I've just actually been going through the emails. I've seen them. I've moved them into a separate folder on my my trusty MacBook Pro, and I'll be kind of reading through those and then compiling kind of a response to send back. Simon and I will have a chat about how we're going to make things work. We're currently scheduling some time in, hopefully this weekend, for about an hour or so to do some recording. And then, as I say, you're going to get an email from me beforehand in terms of how we're going to probably kind of manage this, how we'd like the kind of the trial runs for editing will go, but sometime after Sunday there will be a bulk load of footage available for you. That footage will probably be sent to you via WeTransfer, but all of these details will be made clear in an email that you will receive from me towards the end of play today. The end of play. Yes. Okay, well, that's an update on that, and yes. that's the whole episode. That's all for this week's episode. Don't forget to subscribe to us on your podcasting service of choice. You can like us on Facebook, and if you'd like to see our faces, check out our YouTube channel, Spongy and Electric. Infinity War reviews, your favourite sculptures, and other thoughts on the show can be sent to us at spongyelectric@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Join us again for another tumble down the wiki rabbit hole,
And we'll see you next time. Bye.